Alright, good evening everybody. It's funny, my other video was a little bit more religious and I was dressed a little bit more secularly, and here I have a little bit more of a secular video and I'm just a little bit more religious. So let's talk a little bit about this, what's in the news about the UFOs. This is a subject I've always been interested in my entire life, since I'm a young child. And I've learned a lot of different ideas about this thing, different theories and different teachings from different people and different backgrounds who've discussed this question of extraterrestrial life, UFOs. Right now they're not talking about any kind of extraterrestrial biological entities. They're only talking about phenomenon. They're not even verifying that it's a form of a craft or anything like that. But rather that just there's this phenomenon that the Pentagon admits that they are aware of, and it would seem that they are unaware of what it is what they're claiming at the moment, which I have a hard time believing, because they're also admitting that they backwards engineering a lot of these things. So I listen a lot to, there are two different speakers who have different views, somewhat similar, but I spoke to one of them about the other one, and he said that what the problems were with the other one. So one is Rabbi Ariel Bar-Tzadok, who people might know from the TV show Ancient Aliens, and I've spoken to him on a number of occasions. I met him one time. And he's aware of a lot of these things, but he's also aware of what our traditional teachings are on these matters. So, for example, the Zohar Kodesh talks about the hollow Earth theory, which got a lot of attention with the new Godzilla vs. Kong film. And it was hinted to in the earlier films in the series a little bit. The truth of the matter is, this is something that is rooted both in scientific and religious texts. And basically, the Zohar Kodesh talks about Sheva Ratzos and Elamim, the 7 hidden lands, which the Chesed Lavrom says that they're basically like the layers of an onion, and that one of the levels is called Eretz Neshia, which is mentioned in the Bible. In Psalm 88, it talks about Eretz Neshia, the land of forgetfulness. And so the Chesed Lavrom says that the people who live in Eretz Neshia, in the land of forgetfulness, the land of Neshia, are the gray aliens. He describes them perfectly. Just what we know in popular culture, gray aliens are actually not from whatever Zeta Reticula, as they often claim, but they're actually much closer to Earth. They're more local. They're from inner Earth. Now, is that a physical plane, or is it what we would call a spiritual or a psychic plane? This we don't know. Does it, meaning, can you dig a hole and get to Eretz Neshia? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But that's where these beings come from, and they have this craft and so forth, and they come and interact with human beings on a regular basis. And we've known about them for a long time. But then you have Dr. Greer as another speaker who I listen to sometimes, Dr. Stephen Greer. And Dr. Greer basically he says that the extraterrestrial highly intelligent extraterrestrial entities are all peaceful, and that we're able to communicate with them psychically in a very simple way, just simply by thinking. And if you get into a deep meditative state, it makes it a little bit easier. and that he's actually able to teach people how to invite these beings to interact with us and show themselves to us and so forth. And part of his teaching is that the government is aware of these things as well, but has been rather negative in their treatment of the extraterrestrial beings. He refuses to call them aliens because he says these are our brothers and sisters. These are our fellow intelligent beings. And one thing that impresses me is that he said that he himself was raised to be a devout atheist. If you ever heard that term, and yet he was meditating and he met these extraterrestrial beings and the craft in his youth, and he had near-death experiences and so forth, and the extraterrestrials taught him about God, and this is really the same God that we know of in our tradition, a God who's totally one and who fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds and is awake and has the this intelligence with that fills and surrounds all worlds and created us. And a lot of the things that Dr. Greer teaches are Kabbalistic, and other things are from Eastern traditions. And certain things are from Native American traditions, but he himself is of Native American heritage. But he had a wife, I think his first wife was Jewish, and he learned a lot of Kabbalistic tradition. Oh my goodness, what is this mess? From her. Anyway, one thing he says though is that President Eisenhower, who himself was a military man, he warned about the military-industrial complex and the dangers of the military-industrial complex, and that there would be basically a false flag UFO disclosure for the sake of bolstering up the military-industrial complex, to bring us to war, an unnecessary war, for the sake of the people who were waging the wars to make money. What's the fellow's name? Tom Lehrer soll gesund sein. He talks about, everybody enjoys a good war. They like to remember how much they enjoyed the war. And he should be well, Mr. Lehrer, Professor Lehrer. So anyway, this is the Misa. This is the... what am I talking about here? So anyway, they want to make a war, and so they make a false flag UFO disclosure for the sake of a false flag war. This has been something we've been planning for decades, and in a certain way, I made videos about this in 2015, 2016, about how Hillary Clinton, if she would get to the White House, and her connections to Tony Podesta and other people, and her obsession with UAPs and everything, which I've made videos about. You can look in the past videos. How she would be spearheading this false flag UFO disclosure for the sake of warmongering and war profiteering. And Baruch Hashem, President Trump stood in the way of that at least for 4 years. But Rahman al-Islam, the Satan was victorious here, and they did what they did, and they got away with this deal, at least for now. And President Trump was on the way with the COVID bill to bring about the real, authentic disclosure, which would show how disclosure really proves the biblical narrative of angels and demons and other things, and how all of the aliens worship the same one God that we all worship. Just like in the movie Plan 9 for Outer Space, where there's God wouldn't let this happen. He says, "What, you're so arrogant to think that we too wouldn't think of God, right?" And so, which is a very deep message in that film. It's we know, this is the history of that. That's a Christian film, actually. But anyway, and that's why there are all different God references in that, because that was how they got the funding, was from the church. But anyway, the let's see out here. This is what we're dealing with. But the biggest issue when it comes to UFO disclosure is the fact that these things exist. Why don't we have them? Why are we still driving cars and flying planes and shooting up rocket ships when there is a technology that exists on this planet, that's present on this planet, that our government is aware of its existence, that defies all the rules of gravity and physics in a way that we can't understand? Why don't we have that? Dr. Greer says the reason is because we're not ready for it, but we have a lot of it, and the government should at least give us enough that we shouldn't be dependent on these fossil fuels anymore. But again, the governments want us to be dependent on these things and talk about these things for the sake of control, profiteering, and power. So I wish will help, and that we should talk about to scholars quite Shemayim, and make peace with all of the beings in the universe. That's what Shavuos is all about. That the higher worlds and lower worlds all rejoiced when the Torah was given at Sinai. So in this way, we should be zeicher to have a true Kabbalas Torah, and see the Yisrael Tzedek Meherim. Please like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you.